Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Counterpoise podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Samantha Adams, joined by my other two co-hosts. They're going to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Malik Foster, another co-host for the Counterpoise podcast.
And I am Everett Stevenson, your third co-host of the Counterpoise Pod as well. Today we have a really interesting topic. It's one that's near and dear to all of us, and it's called the show this week is called "Get Out of the Way." And in particular, we want to look at a few different things that we feel like gets in the way of people being able to achieve success or to finish the goals that they may have set for themselves at one point in time. A few things that we want to look into is how society plays a role in that. We want to look into also how we overcome some of those situations, as well as how our family and friends and peer group also play roles in us getting either past our goals or working towards getting closer to them, or how unfortunately they could hold us back a lot of times or in some situations. So we're going to get ready to jump right into this conversation and give you guys a bit of our thoughts on this topic. So one of the first things we wanted to start with was society. And so I know, like we said, being from the diaspora and growing up in here, especially wherever you may be coming from, because it seems like, as we see, it doesn't matter where you're at a lot of times. If you're in a minority society, that you likely are getting a short end of the stick in some regards, whether it's trying to leave a country that you were going to for receiving an education. I just recently saw a video of a man who was just working his job, trying to defend themselves, and unfortunately was getting arrested. Charges was dropped, but nonetheless, it still was a sad situation. But there's a lot of times that we see people kind of get that short end of the stick in society, and we wanted to just kind of look at how certain things play a role in those factors. So finances is a big one that we wanted to start with, because everyone talking high value, six figures, this, that, and the third. But I think one of the things that stop a lot of people from having the opportunity to be able to even start to or achieve their dreams is financing and the things that it costs to actually be able to do it. I think some of this is offset a little bit due to the internet era, and we have YouTube University. So it allows people to gain access to information, Google as well as other English sources, media sources that they can use to research different topics and things. So it's kind of offset on the need for such researchers before, because you would have had to actually find access to those volumes of those books or that categories in order to get those, not get knowledge on certain things. So that's one thing that I think that kind of helped offset that to a degree. But yeah, that's still a big factor for being able to get qualifications that you may need, or certifications for certain things where you do actually have to pay an institution in order to receive that.
I wanted to say, the thing about finances, whenever you're trying to attain a goal, right? Doesn't matter what the goal is, right? Like all three of us are lawyers. Now it's expensive, you know. Some people take loans. Some people don't have the credit to be able to take out loans. And people really can sometimes struggle with being able to do everything that they need to do in order to attain a goal because of finances. Some things don't require school, right? um some things just require money, and it's hard to be able to move forward if you don't have it, and it can really slow down or even bring that journey to a screeching halt without the money. So you got to kind of find a way to make one in order to get to where you're trying to go. Like even real estate school, like if you want to be a real estate agent or a broker, right, you got to take these classes that cost money, right? It may not be a lot of money to some, but to some it could be a lot, right? The thing about money and what's considered a lot is very subjective, but based on your circumstance. So I think that it's important to recognize that finances can definitely create a damper on on trying to attain certain goals, and can potentially hold you back from being able to attain them. Because like I said, if you don't got the money, you have to be able to invest in yourself. That was the thing I wanted to say. Like, anytime you spend this money, people look at it like, oh my God, it's a bill. It's not a bill, it's an investment. And when you invest in yourself, the thing about an investment, it has the ability to make you money. And education should always be looked at as an investment. Not just education, but trade or whatever it is. If it's something that can breed you money, once you have it, it is an investment. And I think that people have to, number one, change their outlook and perspective about the finances, and when it comes to trying to attain a goal, because based on whatever that goal is, if that goal is going to help breed you money, you got to be able to invest in it and in yourself. Like,
Yeah, about the finances aspect of it, I was going to say that it comes from your mindset, right? So a lot of people will think a lack of finances hold them back, but that's not necessarily true. There's definitely different options you can utilize, different tools and resources you can utilize in order to achieve your goals. Like for example, right? People want to purchase a house. Uh, People know that, oh, I can get a mortgage. I don't have to come up with $250,000. I just need to get a plan together to put the down payment down and pay the closing costs and other expenses associated with purchasing a home, right? Purchasing real estate. So people are aware about it. I think it kind of comes from the education standpoint. People aren't as educated about finances. Like if you want to get a car, you got to get a loan, but other stuff about making money and increasing your income and things that you need to do money wise, like having a budget, lowering and decreasing your expenses, right? And delaying your gratification on certain things in order to achieve your goals of your financial plan. So I think that's some of the things that people kind of like, mm, they kind of underutilize some of those tools that are kind of obvious because it's not talked about as much. So they kind of, you know, look at themselves like, okay, I'm making this amount of money, but they don't think about ways they can increase their money without changing their jobs or careers. Like, okay, if you lower your expenses, that's money earned essentially because you're able to save extra in order to complete your goals and plans. So money not spent is essentially money earned in a way. So I think that's you know, some things that people need to think about. And I think this is kind of a good segue into the process, right? People think it's going to be a difficult process to like just like purchasing a home, a difficult process. All three of us are attorneys here, lawyers, right? So going to law school, difficult process. So it kind of stems from people being lazy. That's one thing. People not wanting to go through all the stress, right? That's another stress. And just the fear, right? Fear prevents people from being the best version of themselves a lot of times. So that's my thoughts about the process. Long story short, you guys want to jump in here?
yeah, I wanted to say real quick about the process. Some people it's being lazy, but some people it's just they don't have enough faith in themselves, right? Um, we're going to get a little bit more into how we hold ourselves back a little bit later in the show, but as far as the process too, people will often see what it requires, what the processes require when they want to attain a goal, and sometimes the process itself will turn people off. Like it may not necessarily be the going to school, it might be what's required of them while they're there, or whether or not they recognize if they can withstand the mental fortitude that's required for the process, right? And so sometimes the process in and of itself will turn somebody off. They may want the accolades, they may want the goal, but it's the journey that gets them. And I always say respect the journey and honor the dream. The reason for that, the reason why I say that is because you have a dream and you wanna honor it. You have to respect the process because the process is what's gonna make or break you. The process is where character is built. The process is where the foundation is laid. And so, it's important to understand that the process matters, and probably matters more than, if not as much as, the goal itself, because that's where you get your stripes. And so I think that it's important to recognize that, when you're talking about the process, if the process itself turns you off, you may not be built for it. You might want to find another goal. But it doesn't mean that you need to be held back from attaining any level of success. It just may mean that that lane might not be for you. And I think it's important to make sure that people really sit down and have come to Jesus meeting with themselves, to make sure that whatever goal that they're trying to attain is the one that's for them.
Yeah, as far as process on my mind, like I think one of the quotes that always comes to me is like, like I say, you have to fall in love with the journey. And that, when I hear that statement, what it means is like all of the things that it takes to get to it, which a lot of times some people hate to hear this, but it deals with rejection as well. Failure is part of the journey. Sometimes you won't always, it's not a linear line of success, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be things that, now there will be setbacks, there will be things that's going to come up that's going to kind of throw things off a little bit, but it doesn't mean that it's not capable of being accomplished or done. It just means that it's just not going to go in that direction at that time the way that you may have anticipated going. And so I think the statement means to me is like, if you fall in love with the process, if you fall in love with the things that's required in order to achieve the things that you're going to do, you're going to do it because you just won't stop. You're relentless. You're unstoppable with your determination to get things done. And like they said, to quote Nipsey, like there's no focus on there's no focus in the world, like we said, there's no force in the world like a focused mind. And then when you're focused on your process, when you're focused on achieving the things that you want to do, and you tuning everything into getting that done, you'll have that. And I think a lot of times some people may not understand what that requires, what that looks like, or what that level of commitment is. But if you can, it's just almost like I would say it's almost like an obsession. Like you almost have to, like the way I look at it, it's like you have to like, really like challenge yourself to say like, this is the one thing that I'm really like focused on right now. And if there's anything that's kind of taking me away from that, I'm gonna have to kind of like block that out a little bit as much as I can. You know what I'm saying? Of course, people have, families, kids, all types of things that's going to kind of draw away from their ability to kind of, give complete commitment to something. But I think, when you take care of the things that you have to take care of outside of that, everything else needs to kind of be focused towards, getting those type of things going. Within your power. So like, if you're working and you got your 9 to 5 thing going, and then you also trying to build something up on the back end, then your weekends, your evenings, those are the times that you're going to dedicate to building that craft and putting those hours in. So the process is very important. Like they said, it's a 10,000 shot, 10,000 hour, commitment that's required in order to be considered an expert. And those 10,000 hours are part of the process. That's you working on, your craft. That's you working on whatever it is that you're doing in order to become, successful, to be a peer, to be competitive, to be, any of those things that you may want to be.
Yeah. Um, I think it's important to also recognize that other things you can allow other things to get in the way, right? And that's family and friends. And it's not to say that family and friends have ill will. Some do, you know what I'm saying? But most don't. Most of the time, you'll see where family and friends will try to deter you from going a certain path. And a lot of that comes from love and fear. And I know that they say two opposite things can't coexist, but sometimes they can, right? It's how they exude those things. So when you talk about love and fear, and like let's say you have a goal, your family or friends will love you, and they don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see any hurt, harm, or danger come your way. They hope that you would succeed, but they don't want to see that come at the expense of you being harmed. So a lot of times they'll tell you things out of fear, right? They'll fear that you can't make it a particular way, not because they don't believe in you, but just because they're limited in their own thought, or limited in what they can see, right? They think that because they're the outsider looking in, they see things that you can't, but sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes the thing is, because you have that tunnel vision and you're able to see the goal, the things that they see are fake. And so they'll try to deter you from from moving forward. Like Jay-Z was, I think he was on I don't know, V103. I mean, not V103, listen to me. I think he was on like the Breakfast Club or something. He was in an interview, right? And I've posted this interview on my page a couple of times. And it was like, he said something about his uncle, like, yeah, I'm going to sell 1 million records. And his uncle is like, 1 million? 1 million? Do you know how many million records, how many that really is? Like 1 million? I don't think you can do it. And he's like, I sold 1 million records like 1 million times. Now, look at Jay-Z now. He's a billionaire now. Like, because his uncle probably wanted the best for him, but he also said, he goes on to say how his uncle, he sure wanted the best for him, but he was limited on what he could see. So it wasn't that he was trying to project his fear onto Jay-Z. And sometimes family and friends will do that. They'll try to project their fears on you. And it's not because they don't believe you. Sometimes it's literally because they cannot see it. So it's important to remain steadfast in what it is you're trying to do and go forth knowing that you are going to be misunderstood. You're going to be talked about. There's going to be all of these things that are going to happen, and it's okay. You still have to go ahead and push forward, because at the end of the day, once you hit that finish line, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be reward, and the reward is going to be something that's glorious for you, but it's going to be unfathomable to those same people, right? Because they didn't see it. They didn't see it. And also too, sometimes it's jealousy, right? Like, let's just be honest. We're having an open discussion. Sometimes it's jealousy, sometimes it's competition, and sometimes they will have a hard time with seeing you do better than them. And recognizing that that's what it is, you can't give too much credence and focus to that, because you have a job to do. So it's important to remain focused and continue to move forward in whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I agree with this one. When we talk about family and friends, I think another element with that is that sometimes you have to realize that your friends and family, or your family members, not so much your friends, because I think your friends are kind of like closer to you in your age group, so they're maybe experiencing the things that you're experiencing in the same time frame, right? But I think, like, when it comes to family, a lot of times they may be basing their experiences and their thought process on, things that was occurring during their time in their era. But as we see, these days are definitely a lot different than how it used to be, especially for my generation growing up, at least, and seeing some of the things, it was more industrial type of country nowadays, and excuse me, back then, and nowadays it's a little bit more technical in regards to some of the industries that lead the nation. So for me, it's like you have to also understand that they're only able to kind of give you their viewpoint from their experiences and the things that they've kind of seen. You have to take it and understand that it's your job to interpret the lessons and the values that they may be giving you, and then apply those things to the changes and the things that you see in today's society. And that can be a lot. That can be a lot to navigate. You may have a parent who's telling you that you need to go to school, you need to do this, you need to do that. But you maybe want to go a different direction. You might want to go the coding route. You might want to go, the trade school route. You might want to go somewhere else, right? And at that point in time, it's like, even though they're not projecting a fear on you, they're still maybe projecting a lifestyle or projecting a thought pattern on you that is something that may have been true in their day and time, or may have been true in their era. And so they hold, a whole reverence to those thoughts. However, you can see from your eyes, what's going on today, what would give you the best advantage today. And that's why I think you have to kind of trust yourself, trust your own intuition, and lean into that. You know, lean into whoever it is that you have that's guiding you. If it's family, if it's friends, if it's a religion, you know, lean into all of those things, you know, and making the decision that you need to make so that you can take all of the advice that you have, look through it, you know, ask yourself what feels best to you, and then you go accordingly to it. Because I think that's the only way that you're going to really be able to find that freedom that you want to have. Well, that I believe people will like to have, which is, you know, the ability to feel comfortable with the decisions that they make and okay with the outcomes that they have. So that's one thing I would say about family and trying to overcome some of the things that they may have, the fears that they may have, or the projections that they may be placing on you. And then with your friends group, also you have to, you know, be mindful of that as well. You know, are your friends people that you feel like are either excelling in the areas that they in their lives that you would like to, you know, see success in yours as well, or are they just people that you kind of hang around because of the comforts of you guys are just, you know, similarly suited, you guys doing the same thing, you guys have some of the same likes, but aside from, you know, social aspects, it doesn't gain, you don't gain any type of knowledge or any type of advantage. They're not pushing you maybe to become harder workers or to want more out of your life. If you don't feel like that's some of the things that you see in your friend group or your friend category, those are things that can limit, you know, your success as well, or you being able to achieve your dreams, just simply because, you know, your time might be caught up with more leisure things than it would be with more productive things to get you closer and closer to, you know, being able to live the lifestyle that you want. So those are things that I just want to just say on the friends and family side that could play a factor in someone, you know, being able to achieve the goals that they want to set out.
Yeah, with friends and family, sometimes there can be that lack of understanding with your friends and family on your vision and your goals on what you want to achieve. And that can hold you back because family and friends, you got your family pressure. Of course, most people want to make their family happy, and then friends, right? You want to please your friends too. You want, you know, the people that are close to you that you love and appreciate. You want them to, you know, appreciate what you're doing, you know, give you your recognition and your respect, and you don't want to not have that, right? So sometimes that can hold you back on doing what you really want to do because you want to please them instead of pleasing yourself first. So sometimes, you know, you can end up focusing on the other people instead of the vision, right? Because sometimes they don't like what you're doing along the journey, but once they see the results, they understand and respect it more. So at least that's been my experience. Like, you know, they may not agree with your decisions on what you're doing, but at the end, they're like, okay, you did a good job. I didn't expect that. You know, I'm thoroughly impressed. So sometimes you have to persevere through the struggles of dealing with your family and friends because those are the people closest to you. And sometimes they can do the most damage. It's not like necessarily a stranger coming to you and things like that. Another point I wanted to bring up with family is the division, right? Sometimes, you know, your family can be divided and on certain things, but you still have to persevere once again through the struggles of dealing with your family being divided on issues pertaining to you, especially if it's parents or other loved ones, the people that raised you, right? Sometimes they may differ, or there may be problems in the home as well, or you might have a little bit of a dysfunctional family. But you know, life isn't going to give you any excuses for that. Like, hey, okay, you have a dysfunctional family, so here's this benefit we're going to give you to help you out. No, you have to learn how to manage the crisis in your life. I think that's not really talked about enough, and especially when it's dealing with family and friends. You have to learn how to manage it very well, the ups and downs of life, right? So that's really what I wanted to touch on. My other co-host kind of touched on some other points that I wanted to say, but I don't want to reiterate that. So we can kind of move on to the next segment. We could talk.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to
Go
quickly
ahead.
say about lack of understanding too, Malik, is um one of the biggest struggles when people don't understand is that they think they do, right? And you can see that they don't, but sometimes it's hard for people to recognize that they don't understand what you got going on. Like, I know in law school, I'm not the only one. Many people had this experience in law school, and I'm pretty sure other people have these experiences when they go to a professional school, especially when their family, nobody in their family has ever had that experience before. You know, they think, they look at it like, oh, it's almost like undergrad. You can do it. You're smart. And it's like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's not about the fact that I'm smart. Everybody here is smart, right? It's, I'm going through something, and I'm evolving as a person, and it hurts. There's growing pains that are associated with that type of education and growth. And a lot of times your family just doesn't understand it. And they try to encourage you. They try to be there for you as best they can, but sometimes it's just not enough. And so you typically lean on other people who are going through that struggle with you because they understand. And it's no dig or jab or anything negative. It's just that sometimes they just don't understand, and they're not going to. Until they have that experience, there's a lot of times people just will not be able to understand that. And that, I think, is also too a good segue into how we get in.
Before we say, yeah, let
Oh,
me touch on that last thing too, on a lack of vision or like an understanding. Also, understanding that everybody not gonna have your vision. It's not, it's your vision. Like, that's why it's like, it's what they say, like, that's why God gave it to you. I think Steve had spoke on this on his interview, Steve Harvey. And it's to say, like, don't get discouraged by that, bro. Like, don't get caught up if people don't understand it, they're not supporting, like to Malik said, to all of those things, like, they're not gonna see it, bro. Like, it's not meant for them to see. Like, it's for you. You got to know that you who you were before you even.
right.
He said, like, quoting Jay again, but he said, like,
They don't
you know,
understand
you
the
were who you
journey,
were
but
before
they
you
see the
got here.
results.
You feel me? So it's like, yeah, they might not see it. It's not their version. It's not their beliefs. They're not gonna see why you doing what you're doing. But if you know you got a purpose, you know why you're doing it. You have an idea. You trying to go ahead and get that off the ground. You know, stick to yours. It'll come.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so one of the things I wanted to also get into, segue into, is how we get in our own way. And I think it's important to recognize that this is a huge problem, right? It's a huge problem because we get in our own way a lot, and it stagnates the heck out of progress. Um, because either A, we think we know and we don't. You have to be teachable all of the time in every circumstance. Because when you're not teachable, that stubbornness can totally get you stuck. And when I say being teachable, it doesn't mean you just take what anybody and everybody says for Bible, but it does mean you have to be open to hear what other people have to say, listen to different perspective and interpretation, because you never know how it can feed that journey, feed you to your goal, right? You got to keep your eyes on the prize, but be teachable. Because if somebody has information, you never know how it can benefit you, right? Like, there's a lot of times where, better yet, let me put it like this. One of the best things about, one of the things about some of the best teachers in the world is that they learn from their students, right? Because they remain teachable. It's not always my way or the highway, or because I've done X, Y, and Z, or been here for however long, I know more than you, or I know better than you, because you never know where you can learn your next lesson from. So being teachable is incredibly important, and being open in that way. And then one of the other things is you have to be able to do things despite fear. You know, you can seem fearless and all that, but you can be terrified, but you cannot allow that fear to paralyze you. Otherwise, you're never going to move. You're always going to be stuck in that one spot, unhappy on top of that, right? Because when you allow fear to get a hold of you, you already had goals and dreams to move forward, but you're stuck. It's like being on a rickety bridge, right? You're scared to go across, but you're in the middle of the rickety bridge. Well, you won't be afraid when you get to the other side, so cross. You know what I'm saying? I think I saw this thing where they said Steve Harvey said something to the effect of, you had to go through hell to get there. So why would you stop in hell? You got to keep going. You know, it's important to just continue to keep it pushing, and remembering that you can't allow the fear that you hold within yourself, or your own lack of being teachable, to stop you from continuing to be able to move forward. You got to be able to move forward. Being moving forward, keeping your eyes on the prize and staying focused is some of the biggest ways to be able to attain that, guys.
Oh, I just want to say, I think that was Eric Thomas with that one. Like you said, you're already in pain. You know what I'm saying? You already hurting. Like, why stop? You feel me? But I just want to throw that in there. But I also, just to go on that topic as well, you know what I'm saying? I totally agree. Like, you know, ourselves, we can be some of our biggest critics, you know, and sometimes also that comes in the form of like she said, you know, fear, and that fear can resonate in self-sabotaging sometimes. I've seen people do things like that, where it's just like, you know, you kind of in a way, and you just don't believe that you deserve to have certain things. So, you know, you might mess it up because you sense that something might not go the way that you want. So you just gonna be the one to get ahead of it and do it, you know, throw it away before you think you let someone else do it for you. I think those are issues and ways in which people have like held themselves back from certain opportunities. So I really think that, you know, you have to look at yourself, look at, you know, how bad you want it, and what you're willing to do to overcome it, and what you're willing to give up sometimes to overcome it, including, you know, thought processes that you may have, as well as other things in your own life. I know one of our other things that we mentioned as well with that is the patience and the time that it takes in order to achieve certain things. I think that's one of the biggest things, because it goes towards, you know, you not having, you know, a time frame in which, you know, that you believe that you set in your own mind, and understanding that things happen in the time that it's supposed to happen. You know, you may, you know, plan for it to be in one thing and hope that you can get it done. And if that event doesn't, in the event that it doesn't happen, are you still going, as Inky Johnson said, can you still be committed to that same dream and dedicated to that same situation, even though you didn't get the results that you expected to get? And that's one of the things that we talk about with the patience, because it's like, you have to understand that, yeah, it didn't come how I wanted it to come, or the way I thought it was, but I'm still not going to give up, or I'm not going to approach it with any less vigor. I'm not going to, you know, throw it to the cast it away to the side. I'm not going to, you know, go after something else. I'm not going to just do something that may be a little bit easier. I'm still going to fight the good fight, or I'm going to fight the fight that's in my heart, rather. So I think, you know, we look at that, we look at patience, and have to realize that sometimes things happen in its own timing, but as long as you know that you're working towards it happening, it's going to get there. You know what I'm saying? You just got to just wait it out. That's it. Like, stuff get greater later. Like they said, you know, fine like wine. You know what I'm saying? And all of those things are things that take time in order to develop. And I think that comes with the patience part of it, even when you don't. And it's crazy, because I heard last guy, which was, I'm trying to think of his name real fast, Gary Vee, say you almost have to have a micro macro approach, with the micro mindset being that you're trying to work as hard as you can to get the goal accomplished, but understanding that each day that you worked as much as you can, worked as hard as you can at it, is just a small little step towards getting to where you're trying to go. So every day you're trying to do as much as you can, and understanding that, and as much as you're doing is just one little piece into getting there. So it's the macro micro approach. And I think that's one of the things that really help with the mindset for the patience, and achieving, and the relentless mindset that goes into achieving goals.
Yeah, I kind of want to jump into ourselves, right? So fear is one of the biggest factors that hold us back. We're fear to, you know, try new things. We're fear of the unknown, just fear of failure. So fear is one of the biggest obstacles in our lives personally that we have to kind of get out of our own way, right? Because we only get one life, unless you believe in something else, reincarnation. But and you as yourself, even if you believe in reincarnation or different things, this is the only time you're going to be you, right? So, because you know they say that energies never created or destroyed, it's just recycled, right? So you're only going to be you once. So the point is, you can't let fear stop you from accomplishing your goal, being on your purpose, and achieving the things you want to achieve in life. So that's one aspect I want to talk about. Faith. You have to believe. You have to have confidence in yourself. It's very important because when you have confidence, you tend to get things that you really want, whether it's the relationship you want, whether it's the job you want, whether it's the businesses that you want. Just being confident and having that faith in yourself and achieving your goals, very vital, very important to your success. Discipline, right? You have to be disciplined, right? Because these things don't happen overnight. You have to understand you're accomplishing your goals and that level of success that you want to attain, no matter how big or small it may be in terms of money, no matter how crazy the idea seems, you just have to be disciplined, working consistently, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly to achieving your goals is kind of where you need to be on the path of doing, right? And then the last thing, be patient, right? Just you want to not be in a rush because you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to fail so fast. You want to learn from the failures. Don't give up so easily and have that patience to learn from your mistakes so you can have a better chance moving forward and accomplishing what you want to accomplish and getting out of your own way. And when you take that time to reflect towards yourself, saying, hey, I did this, can I do this better? Is there a way I can improve? So just be patient with yourself and don't always be in a rush. Like, why am I not achieving this so fast? Why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? Because you have to think of the end result, the goal, and don't compare yourself to others so much. And that part kind of goes back into the family and friends and other people, your peers. You don't want to do the comparison. You want to run your own race at your own pace. So that's really what I wanted to say about ourselves
Yeah,
and
that's also something.
overcoming too a little bit. But go ahead, sir.
Right. I was about to say those are a lot of great solutions to trying to find ways to stay out of your own way, and also too how to disallow other things to get in the way. One of the things we didn't talk about, we should have mentioned earlier too, was about race, right? A lot of times we find ourselves in circumstances where our race can be in the way, the color of our skin, and it's not our fault, right? Or our gender can be in the way, and it's not our fault. Those are immutable characteristics. You're born with them. You can't. It could be disability, but the thing about those is you have to continue to push forward regardless. Because the thing about it is, like, those are not right. You shouldn't, though, it's not okay for somebody to use those things against you as a negative strike, because they're not negative. And it's important to recognize that in your knower that those are not supposed to be held against you, and that you have to push forward despite those things. One of the things that Malik was talking about when he was talking about having confidence, confidence is so important. If you don't have confidence, then it's just as debilitating as fear. But it's important to recognize that there's a huge difference between confidence and arrogance, right? It's not okay to be arrogant. It's better to be confident. And there's a huge difference, but there's a fine line, if that makes any sense to people. Um,
Yeah, I'm glad you,
feeling,
because
yeah,
like I think sometimes people take other people's level of confidence as arrogance, and it's not necessarily that that person is really arrogant and feels that they're better than others, as much as it's just the play that they're so comfortable with themselves that they can, you know what I'm saying, say things that other people will feel, like ashamed to say.
uncomfortable about. Exactly. That might make you feel uncomfortable. So it's believing in yourself, having faith in yourself, and knowing that you are in the spot because God put you there. And one of the things that I wanted to add to the list of solutions, right, to getting out of your own way or allowing things to get in the way, is don't be rigid in your plan. You know what I'm saying? God, they always say that if you want to make God laugh, make a plan. Doesn't mean don't make a plan, but just understand that God may change that. If you don't believe in God, the universe, whatever, it's not always going to go like how you think. And it's going to take 1,000 times for you to fall on your face and fail before you succeed. But that success is going to outweigh and overshadow every failure that you've ever had, because you're going to feel like it's worth it. It's worth it because you know what you went through and all the blood, sweat, and tears you put in order to get to where you are. So don't be afraid to fail. I know Will Smith talked about failing forward at one point. And regardless about how you feel about Will Smith right now, with all the controversy behind him and Chris Rock, he's absolutely right. You have to fail forward. The road to success is not straight. So, it's important to recognize that you don't want to be arrogant and you can't be too rigid, because the plan is going to change at some point, and that's okay. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think we pretty much hit it overall.
Yeah, I think I hit a few things. I was gonna say as part of solutions is that just to kind of reiterate the planning aspect. I think that's where it kind of comes from. When you create a plan and you're very specific and detailed about it, and you work your plan, um, I think you'll get out of your own way more likely than not. So I think that's very important to do, is create the plan, work the plan, and execute the plan. And that way you'll get out of your own way. I think that's one of the best things.
Being okay with changing the plan when it needs to be changed.
Right, exactly. Being flexible, amendable, being able to be counseled, seeking help when you can, and looking out for resources,
Right.
just using your brain, thinking, researching, YouTube University, as he said, that's really helpful. And Google, that's another helpful tool. And just listening to other people who have achieved the level of success that you want to achieve is very useful.
Mentorship.
Well, yeah. So, my final thoughts and my solution, as far as on solutions and other things as well, is to kind of echo their thought process of what they just said. Again, is to seek help with some individuals that that actually were able to do it. One of the things that I've learned in life is that people who are genuinely good-willed people, they understand that, one, that they didn't put in the work, so they know how difficult it is to actually get there, and they don't mind, you know what I'm saying, telling somebody like, hey, here's how my journey went, you know what I mean? Maybe you can, save a few nicks and bruises by avoiding these type of pitfalls along the way, but you also may have to make adjustments for the things that's currently going in the current market, as opposed to the market that they may have been facing when they first came. So, while they can give you advice, they're going to be able to give you the advice as to as to the way things were and the time in which they were dealing with it. Nowadays, and I think, again, that's great, because history a lot of times does repeat itself. So you have to be able to know what happened in the past a lot of times to be able to handle some of the things that happen in the future. But you also have to be able to put your own critical mind and put your own thoughts onto things, so that you can look at it, assess it, and think of what will be best for you. Because I'm telling you, trying to follow somebody else's plan isn't always going to be the best option for you as an individual.
Yeah, it's like trying to walk in somebody else's shoes, and it might not be your size.
Exactly. So I think, always try to, take the advice that you can receive, seek the advice from others that, that are in positions that you want to be in. And a lot of times I would say almost listen to it, right? Like, because I know I can I think of a time or two in my life where I've heard someone tell me some things, and I think a lot of times and this is one thing that I've noticed, like, I was just so much focused on, the way that they were living and the things that they had and how things were going, that while I heard their words, you know what I'm saying, I didn't necessarily feel like I followed it, because, again, it's like, I feel like you're telling me something, but you live in something different. And a lot of times, you might catch that, because, and it may seem kind of like, I don't want to say hypocritical in a sense, but more so it'll seem as though it's not necessarily hypocritical. It's more so that it'll look like, well, why are you telling me this, but you doing it? You know what I mean? And it makes you question, but I think what I've come to learn is because they try to tell you just because I'm doing it, if I could, I will be doing it differently. And so I think that's something to be mindful of when you hear that, because it's like, yeah, you see me doing it and it's working and I'm making it work for me. And at the time, you might be like, well, I just want something to work for me like that. You know what I'm saying? But they might be giving you an option to say, you know, but if you go this route, you could get this a little bit easier, or it may take you a little bit more time, but you know what I'm saying? This is a better way of doing it. So I think be mindful of the things and the advice that you hear, and then hear it completely. You know what I'm saying? Don't hear it for what you want to see it for. You know, hear them completely. And if you don't know, ask a little bit more to get more clarification, because likely they'll be able to explain to you why it is that they're saying what they're saying.
Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump on into our motivational minute. Today I have a quote from somebody by the name of Harvey Firestein. He says, accept no one's definition of life, define yourself. And then it goes on to say that no matter what others are opinions of are you, your destiny will always be in your hands. You decide what you are capable of, no one else. There are no limitations except those you create in your own mind, right? So don't be a slave to your mind. I went to Clark Atlanta University. Many of you guys know that. I talk about it on the show often. And we had two mottos, and one of them was culture for service, but the other one, almost everybody I know that went to school with me still lives by one of those mottos to this day, because it has really helped us to get many of us to reach super levels of success. I've gone to school with some. I share an alma mater with some of the most successful Black people in the country, and one of those is I'll find a way or make one. And so what that means is that because of the way that things happen in your life and how things can get in the way, there's always going to be a way. Even if you don't see it, you got to make it sometimes. You got to figure it out. You got to do what you got to do, and you're going to get there. And so I think it's important to recognize, to just remain tenacious in what it is you're doing. Continue to persevere and stay focused. Don't allow anything to distract you or get in the way of what it is you're trying to do. And that includes sometimes finding a way or making one. Stay focused and keep your eyes on the prize, because at the end of the day, that's how you're going to reach whatever it is that goal is. Because the goal can be big, it can be small, it can be long term, it can be short term. It could be, hey, I don't want to eat any meat today, right? It could be just that simple. Or it could be, I want to be an astronaut. Whatever that goal is, it's yours, and God gave it to you. And so you got to just go ahead and figure that out, do what you got to do, keep on pushing forward, stay motivated, encourage, and don't let anything get in the way.
Yeah, so with that, I wanted to go ahead and introduce this week's book of the month, or this month's book of the month, pardon me. And the book is by Reginald Lewis. It's called Why Should All the White Guys Have All the Fun? There's a little backstory as to who Reginald Lewis is. He was a successful businessman who grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. He eventually graduated as an attorney as well from Harvard Law School. He's a Virginia State University graduate as well. He had a early on, he was always business minded, had a little paper route that he started, a business newspaper company that he has created back in Baltimore early on. Sold it, and then always had a knack for entrepreneurship, became an attorney, then eventually bought a couple different businesses. One of them was a healthcare company that he had worked with, and sold it for $50 million profit. And the second one was a international division of Beatrice Foods, which became the chairman and brought the company up to $1 billion company as well. So Mr. Lewis wrote this book called Why Should All the White Guys Have All the Fun? And it basically gives a background into his life and some of the things that and the lessons that he learned as he tried to achieve success in America. And one of the things that they have as a backdrop for that that quote in particular as to why that was the title of the book. And it gives a story of how, he was around like a 6-year-old, receiving a bath from his grandmom and grandparents, and they were just talking about life at the time, and how, the grandfather felt like his opportunities, he wasn't able to get certain opportunities due to his race. And how, while they were talking, they both were kind of just saying how they wish that things would be, a lot better for young Reginald as he grows up. And eventually one of his grandparents asked him, hey, well, will it be better for you? And then, Reggie said, yeah, of course, why should all the white guys have all the fun? And that's one of the ways that this quote came about. So the book, though, is like as I said, very interesting book. It definitely talks a lot about his experiences while, growing up, going to a HBCU, then going to Ivy League school, growing up in the inner city school, going to, urban high schools, things of that nature, and just ways in which he had to adapt in different levels of life. So I think it talks on a couple different things that we talked about today. One of them was, again, having to assist his parents at certain points. I think one time he talks about in high school, he had to kind of go do the research outside of his parents to figure out what would be the best school for him to get the opportunities that he want, educationally, athletically, to be able to continue his education. And that's something that he couldn't really rely on with just his parents. He had to assist them with that. Another thing became about what we talked about too earlier was the level of confidence that he had early on, and how, sometimes some people who may not have known him would have taken that as arrogance, or felt that he was, being super conceited. Whereas, for people who knew him, just understood that, okay, that's just kind of how he is. It doesn't mean nothing by it. It's just, that's just his personality. It's super high strong. So a lot of those things in talking about someone who's able to overcome a lot of obstacles within their lifetime. Reginald Lewis is someone that defines that. So we wanted to go ahead and honor his book this week with that. And also we definitely would want to go ahead and promote one of our Black businesses of the week. I'm wearing a t-shirt from him, which is Marathon Clothing. It's one of my favorite artists as well, and that is Nipsey Hussle. So you guys can always check them out on Marathon Clothing. They're online, based out of Los Angeles, California. So yeah, wanted to shout them out and shout that out. Thank you guys for checking out the video this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely looking to continue to bring you guys some good heat. You guys can catch us up on Wednesdays as well at 8:30 p.m. We'll be going live every week on Instagram, and then you can catch our social media handles, which will be posted here on display momentarily. So I want to thank you guys for that. If you guys got anything else that y'all want to say.
Just
No.
make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, all that good stuff. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just was gonna say, if you guys have any suggestions you want, just hit us in the comment section. You can send us a DM message, catch us on Instagram, contact us there. If you guys have any thoughts you want to convey to us,
Facebook.
we'll be happy to hear from you.
Facebook too.
Oh yeah, Facebook as well. So thank you guys, and
All right, y'all.
peace.